It's about the I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball. Oh, Holloman looks the clock, half court for the win. Oh! The Lions go for it, the Vikings bring it. The pass is a touchdown to give. Javi Baez, homered earlier. First one, in the air, deep left field, again! Yes, Tigers win! Robbie is unstoppable!
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. We are back. Took a week off, had a good vacation, got sunburn on my shoulders, got maybe a little bit of burn kind of up in this area, but wasn't that bad. What a great week I had. You know, it was a slower news week. I didn't feel like, oh, well, you know, I'm not missing out on anything big. The Tigers are starting to play well, I guess, but, you know, I'm not missing out on anything big or crazy. And then Thursday happens, and I get a notification on my cellular telephone, and it says the NCAA is going to release the punishment for Michigan the next day. The announcement for the announcement. Very strange, but it is what it is. And so then Friday came along, final day of the vacation. And I actually read the real punishment. And I gotta tell you, I don't know whether to be angry, disappointed, or just laugh. Because as we'll get into it as we start the show, it's just perfect. It's just the perfect end to a saga of absolute lies and misinformation and complete and utter lack of accountability, lack of what's the word? It begins with an R. Responsibility. So that's fun. But other news that we got to get to as well. We got Trey Hendrickson potentially on the trade block. But I do have not the take of like, he's bad. But I do have the take of we'll talk about it. It's going to be interesting. And the Tigers are out of their slump seemingly as they murdered the Houston Astros last night. That was a whole lot of fun. Speaking of cheaters. But okay. Let's just jump into this right here off the top, right here off the bat. So I'm going to just simply read from this Bleacher Report article by Scott Pulasek. This came out on Friday, obviously. I'm just going to read the exact quotes from the NCAA report. This isn't, the evil media coming after the big, nice Michigan people. This isn't me. This isn't me, the Spartan, being so mean to. This is just what the NCAA said. And then I'll give my commentary. Anyhow, let's just jump into this. And I quote, "The Michigan football program committed violations involving an off-campus, in-person scouting scheme, impermissible recruiting inducements and communications, head coach responsibility rules, individuals' failures to cooperate, and Michigan's failure to monitor," the NCAA said in release. The scouting violations orchestrated by former football staff member Connor Stalions were corroborated by interview testimonies, ticket receipts, and transfer data and other evidence. blah, 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 scroll, scroll, scroll. As a result of, Michigan's most recent infractions case, 3 parties, Michigan, Harbaugh, and more, fall within the legislated window to trigger repeat violator status. Michigan's repeat violator status, coupled with its level 1 aggravated case classification, is sufficient grounds for a multi-year postseason ban. However, the panel determined a postseason ban would unfairly penalize student athletes for the actions of coaches and staff who are no longer associated with the Michigan football program. Thus, the panel determined a more appropriate penalty is an offsetting financial penalty instead of 2-year postseason ban. End quote. So cheating is just legal. I mean, you basically, if you're Michigan, you paid like $30 million for a championship. Why isn't my team cheating? Why isn't everybody cheating? Like, what? At that point, I guess it's not cheating if everybody's cheating, because then it's just how it works, you know. But I got to tell you, it'd be one thing if the NCAA just said, "In our findings, we determined this was the suitable penalty." End quote. Just like that, like nothing. They said, this is what gets me. They said, based on all these things, repeat violator status, level 1 aggravated case classification, grounds for multi-year postseason ban. They even said a 2-year postseason ban. They even gave you a number. They said, yeah, we don't want to punish the kids. And why would you want to punish the kids? I mean, after all, the kids have already been punished because for, 4 years, Michigan was cheating like an adulterous man having an affair. He's at a Coldplay concert. Michigan was cheating like crazy. Now, here's the thing, okay? I just want to establish this because I know that all the very smart and very football savvy Michigan fans who definitely did not go to the University of Michigan, but that has nothing to do with the fact that they are not so smart. That has nothing to do with that fact. I am offering you now this proposition, okay? You can choose one narrative of these two that I give you. You cannot choose both, okay? Here we go. Narrative number 1. Connor Stanley did absolutely nothing. His impact was completely minimal on the team. The team was good enough to win without him. It doesn't matter. He could have been, videotaping Ohio State, their weekend plans. He could have been videotaping everything about Ryan Day's life. It wouldn't matter because Michigan is just so good and so amazing, and they didn't need any help at all. Okay? Narrative number 2, Connor Stalions is a hero. He's being smeared by the evil fake news media because he's just so smart and he helped resurrect the Michigan program. And I hope one day he comes back and he's the coach of Michigan because he's so great and he helped bring Michigan back from the brink of destruction, from when we were in the dark days of early Jim Harbaugh before he started cheating. And then he brought us back into the days of cheating Michigan, I guess. Those are your 2 options. And both of them cannot be true at the same time. Because if he did nothing, then why was he paying thousands of dollars to go send people to games to record other teams' signs? If he did nothing, then why was he employed in the first place? And if he did nothing, why would Jim Harbaugh give him the game ball after the Big Ten championship? I didn't reveal that footage. He revealed that footage in that stupid documentary he wanted to release. Because, of course, obviously he did do something. And obviously he had an impact. If he didn't have an impact, why in the world was he on the team? Like, if I got hired on Jonathan Smith's, coaching crew, for whatever reason, they brought me on. I don't know why they would bring such a man on as myself, but whatever. They decided they wanted to bring me on. Don't you think that there'd be a reason for that? It wouldn't just be because they're just such nice people and because I went there for 4 years. I don't think that would be the reason. Obviously, they brought him in to do some shenanigans, to do some chicanery, to do some tomfoolery. And they got caught with their pants down. He was wearing spy glasses in our stadium on Central Michigan's sideline, which I don't even know how Central Michigan's football program is still in existence, but it is what it is. They got caught, and that's it. That's the reality. And look, here's my thing. I never really expected any major punishment. I would have been shocked if there was a real postseason ban, although I do find it funny that the NCAA is like, yeah, it was bad enough for a postseason ban, but we didn't want to punish the kids. Like, great. Very nice of you, NCAA. Thank you for that consideration. But yeah, I didn't expect anything big. I mean, all of the people involved have already left. Jim Harbaugh ran away. He ran away to get cigarettes and milk. Chris Partridge destroyed evidence and then got fired for destroying said evidence. Connor Stallions got fired for getting exposed as a dirty lying cheater. Like, all of the people, except for, I guess, Sharon Moore, are gone. All the players that benefited are gone. All the coaches are gone. It's over. They got away with murder. What should have happened realistically, and you can't go back at this point, what should have happened is their season should have just ended as soon as they got caught. They should not have been playing football games. But the NCAA and the Big Ten decided to let them play it out. And now we're here. Now we're at a point where we realize that it's as bad as everybody initially was speculating it to be. And there's nothing more. There's nothing you can do. They got away with it. So credit to Michigan for getting away with cheating. I'm not even being, facetious here. I genuinely, it's impressive that they managed to get away with this. But what I'm not going to do is pretend that they got away with nothing. Like that's what's so funny is that it's like, oh, we got away with it. With what? I thought you guys didn't cheat. I thought Connor Stallion didn't do anything. He was basically just a mascot, essentially. But look, the real punishment is not the fine of $30 million or whatever it is. It's not the show causes for Connor Stallions and Jim Harbaugh, because neither of those guys are going to be coming back to college football anyway. It's not the suspension for Sharon Moore. It's none of that. The real punishment is that forever, the Michigan program, until they can manage to, bring themselves back out of the brink again, will be known as having their only success in the 21st century marred by this cheating scandal. Whether or not they could have or should have or whatever, whether or not they could have won without the cheating is completely out of the question. You're the Houston Astros. You're the 2017 to 2019 Houston Astros. And maybe a little bit before that. You will forever just be known as the guy or the team that had the guy on Central Michigan sidelines on national television against Michigan State. That's what you're going to be known for. You're going to be known for the guy who was paying people $30,000 up to for tickets to record iPhone footage of the other team. This is what you're going to be known for. So just say, yeah, we played dirty. We won a championship. It was great. I don't care. Just say that, and I will be able to respect you much more. What I don't want to hear is that we never cheated, without a doubt, we're so good. We got away with it. The NCAA, they can't do anything, which obviously, fact check true, as far as I'm concerned. The NCAA can't do anything about it. But now that this is all done, all right, now that we're through this forest, well, actually, we're not totally done because Michigan is appealing the punishment. Why? Because F you, that's why. They might as well. At that point, I'm like, yes, go, Michigan, go. Appeal the punishment. Because I kind of want to see if they can legitimately get away with this. Like to the point where there's no punishment. Like, if they can get it to where Sharon Moore doesn't even get suspended next year, that'd be amazing. So, but now, okay, now that is through, seemingly. Here's my message to all the teams playing Michigan this year. Just beat them. I mean, obviously, some of these teams I can't rely on. I mean, I think they play Central Michigan this year. Actually, I don't know if they play Central. I know they play New Mexico. That's who they open with. I'm just tired of this fan base thinking that, their bleep don't stink. So just beat them, okay? Or just start cheating. Because basically, you've been told by the NCAA that if you're a big enough program, if you make college football enough money, if you're a big enough brand, you can just cheat. So Ohio State, start cheating. Michigan State, start cheating. Penn State, start cheating. Alabama, Auburn. I mean, Maybe some of these, you might say, oh, they already cheat. All right, well, then cheat harder. I don't know. Like, cheat and get caught and don't just, like, lie, basically. So, like, the NCAA, they don't care if you cheat, evidently. Michigan fans don't seem to care about cheating, so they got no room to complain if Ohio State starts cheating. Like, all they got to do is take it, just like they've had to take it for the last 4 years or so. But I am glad that this is over, because now we can just move on, hopefully. And Michigan will just be stuck with this reputation. They will always and forever, at least in my mind, and in many other people's minds, people who believe in reality, I guess, be known as the cheaters and best. So, keep convincing yourself they're not, Michigan fan, but that's your punishment. Your punishment is you're going to have to, every single day, every single moment, anytime this team is brought up, you're going to have to pretend as though they're not what they are. And that, to me, is worth way more than any suspensions or postseason bans could ever be. Oh. Meanwhile, the Tigers have finally started playing baseball. Scooble started with a leadoff walk. That's a little unusual. Anyway. Oh, man. It's kind of crazy. College football starts next week. I mean, I guess it sort of starts this week with week 0. Who's ready for Iowa State, Kansas State? The Cyclones up against the Wildcats, I believe. I believe it's Wildcats. I think that's this week, right? Hold on. College football schedule 2025. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, week 1, quote unquote. Even though it's week 0. Big noon. I guess it's not big noon, but I guess it's 2 top 25 teams, for what that's worth. Anybody else going to be staying up for Stanford at Hawaii at 7:30? What time is that there? In Hawaii? Isn't that like... What time would that be? Because I'm pretty sure they're like 5 hours behind. So like what, 2:30? It's a weird start time for a football game. Okay, well, good for you, Robert. Trying to do code science, never been coached football, even at high school level. I have, and that has been going on for 2 generations. Okay, well, good for you, Robert. I'm glad. But I mean, hey, I guess if nobody else was doing it, then I don't know why Michigan didn't hire Connor Stallions before. I guess they didn't do anything. So I assume you're going with narrative number 1, which is that Connor Sanders did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. Basically, you paid $35,000 to do nothing. I mean, hey, good for you, I guess. Anyway, can't teach stupid. That's what I say. Let's move on then to let's do the Tigers, because I guess they just started here, so they're on the mind. So, looking at their schedule here. Pull it up, Jamie. There we go. Oh, no. There it is. 2025 regular season. Here we go. So, the Tigers, they have seemingly gotten out of their skid. 3 straight series wins. They got another chance to win a 4th tonight, potentially, if Scooble and the rest of the offense, the offense, period, can get the job done. I don't know why this is not the schedule. There we go. I got to click this. There we go. So, I wanted to break down a couple of players, 3 to be specific. These guys have absolutely been tearing it up. Like, to the point where I didn't really, I kind of was like, oh man, he's been hitting really well the last few weeks. I didn't really realize the extent of the numbers, okay? Let me pull up Spencer Torkelson for you really quick. Spencer Torkelson, through his last 15 games, guy is hitting .308, 419 on base percentage, 500 slugging. That's a 919 OPS in his last 15 games. Then you got Colt Keith. Where's Keith? There he is. Colt Keith, who has been murdering the baseball in his last 15 games. 354 average, 418 on base percentage, 625 slugging. So that's like a 1,000 OPS. And finally, but certainly not without praise, Kerry Carpenter. He's hitting 286, 357 on base percentage, 633 slugging. That puts him at like a 990 OPS, something like that. My math is correct. Those three guys have been just killing the offense, especially when you consider a guy like Riley Green has really been struggling. I mean, in his last 15 games, batting below the Mendoza line. We're talking 196, 258 on base percentage, just a 411 slugging for him, which is, I mean, it totals out to about a 600 or so, 660, 669 OPS, which is obviously not ideal. Basically, the boys are getting hot, is what I'm trying to say. At least those three guys. And there's definitely more. I just don't want to go down the rabbit hole with every single player here. The team is getting hot. And it's evident in the way they are playing this just since the calendar flip. Just since we got into August, obviously they lost that 3-game set to Philly, but they certainly was a winnable series for them. The Twins series, 2 out of 3, that blew. That really sucked. But the comeback win against the Angels a couple of weeks ago and winning that 3-game set. And then the pitching dominance over the 3-game set against the White Sox minus the 1 game where they gave up 9 runs. Then the utter just decimation of the Twins in a 4-game set minus Sunday, where I think basically they were like, all right, we're done. We'll let you guys have one. And then last night, beating the Astros 10-0, and hopefully they can do something similar here tonight, although Hunter Brown is a very frightening prospect, I will say. I went ahead and I took a look at the standings just to see sort of where the Tigers, like just looking at the American League writ large. And I look, okay, I see the Blue Jays are just below them with the 2 seed. They've lost a couple in a row, 5-5 in their last 10. The Astros below them, they've also lost a couple in a row, 5-5 in their last 10. Astros and Blue Jays, both with a lower run differential, plus 50 for the Blue Jays, plus 17 for the Astros. Their offense has really not been great pretty much all year, but the pitching has been really solid. The Yankees in that first wild card spot, they got a 3-game win streak going on. They're on a 7. They've won 7 out of their last 10, plus 99 run differential, which I believe is best in the American League. The Red Sox lost 2 in a row, winners of 4 of their last 10, not plus 91 run differential. And the Mariners in that final wildcard spot, but, not too far behind is Cleveland, who's only 3 games out of said wildcard. My point in bringing all this up is obviously those will probably change. You might see the Mariners fall out, or you might see the Mariners rise up, or the Red Sox, or whomever. You're going to see movement in the final month or so of the season. And the question then becomes this. If not the Tigers out of the American League, who? Because especially after the trade deadline, especially after that skid and during that skid, a lot of Tigers fans, and I'm not going to say that I was not concerned, there was this sense that, okay, the Tigers, they feel like no pun intended, they feel like a paper tiger. They got off to a really hot start, but they don't really have the talent. They don't have the superstars. Like, they're not like these other big teams like, I don't know, the Yankees or the Blue Jays or the Mariners who went out and had a great trade deadline. I even said I really like their trade deadline. They went out and they got a couple of bats. But they've lost 3 in a row. And they're just 3 games ahead in that wild card spot. And the Tigers very well could end up with that number 1 seed. And at home, Tigers 40-24. Okay? So that means with a home field advantage, it treats them very well, basically. And look, you want to say the Tigers aren't good enough to beat LA? fine. You want to say they're not good enough to beat the Phillies or the Brewers? Okay, fine. I'm not. We'll see. There's no way for us to know that until it happens or doesn't happen. But out of the American League teams, look, maybe the Blue Jays. I think they could certainly get hot. We saw how good they can be. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a stud, right? They've shown the capability to really heat up, but obviously right now, a couple of losses in a row, just 5-5 in their last 10. Not blowing the doors off anybody, right? They had a crazy comeback win against the Rangers over the weekend, but obviously there's no threat from some of these bottom feeders. The White Sox are the White Sox. The Tigers do play the Athletics next week. The Twins are just. It's funny. Like I think like briefly after the Twins sold at the deadline. And then they won that 2 out of 3 set against the Tigers. It was like, oh, are they doing the same thing the Tigers did where they sold, but they just suddenly got really hot? And it's like, no, not at all. Basically, no, essentially. But yeah, obviously out of the National League, yeah, the Mets are kind of struggling, but they're starting to heat up maybe potentially again. The Cubs are good. The Brewers are good. The Phillies are good. The Dodgers are good. The American League. Look, the Tigers upgraded their pitching staff, and pretty much, with the exception of maybe you could say Chris Paddock or Montero, pretty much all those acquisitions, those small moves, those non-big splash moves, they've made positive impacts. I mean, like it or not, Charlie Morton has been solid. Kyle Finnegan has been excellent, like to the point where like this guy is essentially our closer and has really helped solidify the bullpen. Even Montero had his moment, last week. So the deadline moves, they weren't the big splash. They weren't the Eugenio Suarez's. They weren't the David Bednars. But they seem to have had a positive impact. They seem to have, at least in the short term, worked to make the team better. And I said this at the time. The team is better because of these moves. However, again, there is this sense that the Tigers don't have that superstar. And who is it that's going to step up? Maybe it'll be some of the guys I talked about earlier. Maybe it's Colt Keith. Maybe it's Spencer Torkelson. Maybe it's Gary Carpenter. Maybe it's Dylan Dingler. I don't know. Maybe Javier Baez in the postseason decides to become peak Javier Baez and just tears up baseballs all postseason. I don't know. But look, the question is, if the Tigers are not the team out of the American League to beat, like the team that would be favored to make the World Series, then who? I can think of maybe 2 teams. Maybe the Blue Jays, maybe the Yankees, maybe even the Mariners. They start to, get it together because I think they did make a good, make some good moves at the deadline. But man, like we're in a spot here. And especially, obviously, if the Tigers are beating teams like the Astros, it's going to give you all the more confidence going into that playoffs where the Tigers, this was around the time the Tigers got hot last year. And we know what happened then. They made it to the ALDS and were 1 win away from an ALCS. This is a Tiger team that now has a little bit more experience, a little bit more pedigree. I'll just say this. Worse teams than this Tiger team have made the World Series. Certainly. I think there's no debate on that. So, if not the Tigers, then who? That's the question. All right. All right. So now the Tigers, they got a chance. Speaking of Spencer Torkelson, who has been, like I said, playing really well. 3-1 count. And he just smokes into a line. He just lines into a out, basically. This is a ground ball to third base. I thought maybe that was going to get through. But, all right, well. I was about ready to really, pat myself on the back and say, look, Spencer Torkelson, or the guy I was just talking about, got an RBI single or whatever. And no, he did not. He grounded out. It's all right. I mean, Hunter Brown is a hard guy to get base hits on. Fun fact about Hunter Brown. From Michigan, St. Clair Shores specifically, the town that I originally was from, went to Wayne State. Go Warriors. So fun stuff. I don't know where he went to school further. Like I don't know how far back it goes. I'm sure I can find it. Let's actually probably is available on it. Does he have a Wikipedia page? Is he big enough? Big enough to have a Wikipedia page? He does. Let's see. It says he was born in Detroit, Michigan, which means he probably was born at St. John Hospital, which was also where I was born. Let's see. Earlier, born in Detroit, Michigan. Grew up in St. Clair Shores. He went to Lakeview. He went to St. Isaac Joe's. I know both those schools. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's weird because, like, I bet you, and I guess we don't know, but, like, I bet you, like, at the time, like, people who, like, went to high school with him or whatever are like, yeah, I don't know, he's pretty good, but, like, nah, he's not gonna. Yeah, he's not gonna make the major leagues. I mean, he's going to Wayne State to play baseball. He's not going to Vanderbilt. It's like, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like the guys you don't expect, and they just end up making the pros. It's weird. It's weird, but that's actually kind of cool. And I guess if he's from St. Clair Shores, that high school would make sense. This is so weird. While Justin Verlander was pitching for the Tigers, Brown grew up idolizing him and frequently attended games at Comerica Park. Late in 2022 season, Verlander, then pitching for the Houston Astros, landed on the injured list due to right calf issue, and Astros called up Brown to the major leagues. That's weird, bro. That's so weird. He became his teammate. Like, that'd be like if I became, like, teammates with Calvin Johnson. Because I played football as, like, a 13-year-old kid. That's so weird. I mean, obviously, like, the timeline wouldn't work because he retired when I was in high school, but essentially, I don't know. I mean, that's crazy though. That is so crazy. I'll get to it. Is that just at the track? Nice catch, Wenzel. There you go. Scooble got very nervous. Scooble got very nervous about that. Anyway, all right. We're just talking about Hunter Brown now. The Hunter Brown show. I should have him on. Do you think he'll come on the show? No, probably not. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about this because as much as I have been the guy who has said basically since Max Crosby and Myles Garrett went off the board that, okay, there's just not going to be any big trades this offseason. Trey Hendrickson decided, and I guess the Cincinnati Bengals decided, all right, we're going to trade this guy, or we're going to try to trade this guy. Now, here's the thing. Whether a team or a player decides to declare a trade or request a trade or whatever, whether it actually happens, in my experience, is actually somewhat low. Like, players really have to force their way out, and usually it's not like, oh, really good player decides he's going to leave and he goes to other really good team. Usually it's really good player, kind of wants out, team doesn't want to pay him, so he ends up going to team. It's like, it's never like, oh, I guess Carlos Correa comes to mind for whatever reason. Carlos Correa going to be a free agent. Where's he going to go? The Yankees, the Dodgers, the Flim Flams? No, he's going to the Twins. The Twins? I mean, really? And then they like have a little bit of success, and then they just die. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just destroy the Twins while they're down, but hey, it's the Twins. Anyway, so Cincy, their asking price for one Trey Hendrickson, I must say, is kind of bold of them to have this asking price. Cincy is asking for a first-round pick next year and a current young player on defense. Here's my thing. If you are a team who wants Trey Hendrickson, you're going to have to give up probably a current, young, good starter on your defense, Doesn't have to be an edge rusher. You're also going to have to give up a draft pick next year. So, you're essentially giving up 2 young players, if you really think about it. And then, to add insult to injury, so to speak, you got to pay the guy north of $30 million a year for whatever amount of money he wants. Obviously, whatever Cincy's offering him is not enough. So, more than that, whether it's term or actual value. Now, Diana Rossini, she's the one who kind of broke some of this information as far as what the asking price has been. And she did an excellent report on this. She was talking that she was saying in one of these little video reports that I heard, basically, since he's not moving off that asking price. And a lot of teams are like, oh, well, all right, see ya. Like, they're not going to bite on that. And whether or not you think teams should or shouldn't bite on that, you got to admit that's a lot for a guy going into his age 31 season. Now, here's the thing. On the one hand, Aiden Hutchinson and Trey Hendrickson, oh, give me that. I want that. That sounds delicious, tremendous, amazing, fun, good, great, spectacular. I want it. And I would be willing to give up picks for that. When it comes to giving up current young players for an age 30, going to be 31 edge rusher, that's where you might be pushing it. Now, what you're probably wondering, Mike, why are you so focused on the fact that this guy's going to be 31? Don't you know, Mike, you stupid, silly little sportsman, don't you know that just last season he was an all-pro? He had 17 and a half sacks in back-to-back seasons. Last year, leading the league in sacks. He even, as well, had 19 total tackles for a loss with, hold on, where's the solo tackles? With 33 solo tackles total. You silly guy. And he played in all 17 games in both of those seasons. He averaged a sack a game, basically. Now, he's going to be 31 years old. Here, I'm going to give you 3 different players from, let's say, not worst to best, but from things going well, things going well to not going well very quickly. Okay? Example number 1, Von Miller. So Von Miller, in his age 31 season, he did not play. He got his ankle injured and he didn't play for his age 31 season. So that already off to a bad start. Then 2021, this was the year he was on Denver. He gets traded to the Rams, wins the Super Bowl, wins his second Super Bowl. He had 9.5 sacks, played in 15 total games. So pretty good, pretty valuable. Obviously valuable enough for the Rams. Certainly helped them. He had 5 sacks with the Rams. So although you got to think some of those sacks are on account of having Aaron Donald on the other side. But sure, maybe you would say same thing would happen with Trey Hendrickson. Sure, absolutely. The Rams let him walk from there. And in his age 33 season with Buffalo, after he signs there, he plays in just 11 games, but gets 8 sacks. So he's effective in those games, but only plays in 11 games. 2023, he plays in 12 games. Does not start any one of those games. He records 0 sacks. 2024, plays in 13 games. Does not start any one of those games. And he gets 6 total sacks. And I believe at this current moment in time, he is a free agent. That was very quick that things went from pretty good at age 32 with the Rams, right? To, okay, basically non-existent. Basically no production. Like not playing for a good portion of the season, right? All right, let's move along to example number 2. One Matthew Judon. Or Matt Judon. For whatever reason, he's listed as just Matt Judon. I don't know why that's the thing, but Matt Judon, age 30 season, all right? His age 30 season, things are great. 15 and a half sacks. Pro Bowl season. 9th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Excellent year with New England. A bad New England team, but still really kind of resurrects his career. As a career season. 2023, age 31 season, played 4 games, started in just 2 of them. Had 4 sacks, granted, so very high rate, sack a game. Then last year, I remember this was a guy that people wanted the Lions to go after, right? 15 or played in 17 games, played in all games, started in 15 of them, 5.5 sacks. That's just 2 years removed from 30. He just immediately went from not playing, but not being a major superstar edge guy, right? And he was at that point technically listed as a right outside linebacker, but you get my point. And then the final one, which is sort of the coup de grace, I guess. Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, easily, in my lifetime, the best defensive player ever. In totality, one of the best, but at least certainly in my lifetime, my generation of players, one of the most dominant, amazing players. He's a great player. I love Aaron Donald, okay? And he was always a Pro Bowler. So this is even the pinnacle, okay? Every year he was a Pro Bowler, right? 2021, he played in 17 games. This is his age 30 season. He was all-pro, 12.5 sacks, 19 tackles for loss, age 31. He's still a Pro Bowler. Had just 11 games to his name. Had just 5 sacks to his name. 2023, he was a Pro Bowler again. Played in 16 games. Had 8 sacks. So about a half a sack a game. And didn't play in all the games. But he was all-pro. He almost got comeback player of the year. He was the 9th comeback player of the year, Pro Bowler, the whole thing. And then he retired after age 32. Didn't play anymore. So basically, in the best case scenario, i.e. Aaron Donald, right? You have a guy who, after his age 30 season, had 2 Pro Bowls, an All-Pro, which, to be honest with you, if you compare that All-Pro season to a lot of other All-Pro seasons of guys, even like Trey Hendrickson, it's not like that impressive of a Pro Bowl of an All-Pro season. But still, he's Aaron Donald. Just give it to him. I don't think anybody's going to be mad at that. But one thing I do know, Trey Hendrickson is not Aaron Donald. He is probably, if we're just being honest with ourselves, probably a little bit closer to Matthew Judon. I mean, in his peak, you'd say his peak was probably better. He might even be willing to say, if you want to even be really nice, you might say that he is closer to Von Miller than he is Matthew Judon. But honestly, just from a pure accolades perspective, he's really probably closer to Matthew Judon than people are comfortable admitting. I'm not saying the Lions would be worse if they got him. No, they would be better. I'm not saying that any team that gets Trey Hendrickson is better on defense than they were before. But I got to tell you, to the people who say that this is an easy decision, I don't know why Brad Holmes or other teams or whomever, why aren't they going out to get Trey Hendrickson? That's why. Players at this position, specifically, defensive line, edge rusher, outside line, whatever you want to call it, the age 30 to 31 season is precisely the point where the decline usually happens. And again, maybe Trey Hendrickson breaks the trend. Maybe Trey Hendrickson says, you know what? I'm just that good. I'm going to be able to play until I'm 35, and I'll be playing at an all-pro / Pro Bowl caliber all the way to that point. Maybe. Probably not, though. I mean, before last season, never been an all-pro. Has never been a defensive player of the year. Since he got to, he didn't become a Pro Bowler until he played on Cincinnati. That's another thing. People forget, he played for 4 total seasons with New Orleans and was basically a nobody outside of his final year, where he had 13.5 sacks. Again, I really like Trey Hendrickson. I think he would be perfect because he would kind of fit that mold of, okay, we have our Aaron Donald, so to speak, and Aiden Hutchinson. You can be our Von Miller, a guy who is probably going to be leaving his prime, and it certainly is going to be leaving his prime very soon. Let's win now with you while you still got some time left. But I don't think that asking price is reasonable for a guy who is really probably only going to give you 1, maybe 2 seasons of decent production. Not elite, not 17.5 sacks. If you think he's going to get 17.5 sacks next year, then you do that. You give up your young defensive player and a first-round pick. And you might even give up a second-round pick to get a player of that caliber. But I think the reality is Cincinnati put themselves in a position where nobody's going to be desperate enough to do that, especially knowing that this guy wants to get paid. Like, if you wanted to get him on a 1-year rental, maybe you wait until the trade deadline and you just get him on half a year of rental and you get, however many games, 5 or 6 games worth plus the postseason worth of Trey Hendrickson. Maybe that's the move. But Cincinnati, if you didn't want to pay him, if you had no interest in paying him, why in the world did you hold on to him for this whole time? And furthermore, if you had no interest in paying your superstar defensive edge guy, what are you doing with Joe Burrow? Like, if you're just going to have Joe Burrow sit on an awful defense, you're basically Matthew Staffording him 2.0, except Joe Burrow is better than Matthew Stafford was. So, look, again, I would love for the Lions to go out and get Trey Hendrickson. I really would. But for that price, given the age, given the position that he's playing, and given the timeline that most guys at that position, at that age are, I don't know, man. You could say, well, he's been healthy for, both 2 seasons in a row. Sure. These things don't happen gradually sometimes. I mean, Aaron Donald, it was like age 30, doing great. Age 31, dead. Age 32, final year, retired. You willing to give up, let's say, Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph, Jack Campbell, any one of those young defensive players, and a first-round pick to get 2 seasons of maybe decent production? I don't know. Maybe. Like, I'm just saying, this is what you're giving up. So it's not going to be easy. But we'll see. We'll see if any team actually decides to bite. If I had to bet money on it, I would say nobody's gonna bite. And Trey Hendrickson is basically just gonna hold out. Or he's gonna play for Cincinnati and they might trade him at the deadline. But certainly for that asking price, no way. But if they say we'll just take picks, then you might see some movement. We'll see. All right. Oh, I thought that was a base hit. That foul ball just followed the bat and then went backwards. That was weird. All right. That was a great show, I think. I think that was a lot of fun. Got a lot of great topics, man. A lot of great topics. A lot of topics. No. All right. So, a little bit of a look ahead. So, we will be back this Saturday. Lions final preseason game, taking on the Texans at home. That's going to be fun. Next week, obviously we'll be back for the regular show. That goes without saying. But next week, college football begins. Michigan State on Friday Night Lights, taking on the Western Michigan Broncos. Going to be live reacting to that. I just really hope it's much better than last year's Friday night game, because that was brutal last year against Florida Atlantic. I'm not going to lie to you. That was absolutely brutal. I just got a notification on it. I wanted to see if it was Trey Hendrickson got traded or something. Oh, and by the way, breaking news. This is old news at this point, but hold on. Where's my breaking news sound effect? Where's the breaking news? It's here somewhere. Where's the breaking news? Oh my gosh. Sometimes I really should become more familiar with my soundboard. Where is the breaking news? Ridiculous. He's fat. Hate. Coach, just go. Are you? There it is. Breaking news. We do have breaking news. Breaking news. I wish that would kind of fade out. Is there a way to Breaking news is that Anthony Richardson sucks. Okay, Anthony Richardson, who I knew going into that draft, I was certain like this guy was terrible. Like it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, player who was bad in college for Florida at quarterback to the point where people were like, wait, he's going pro? Really? Are you sure? Like, okay. Going to organization that has infamously not had a quarterback in quite some time in Indianapolis. And what do you know? He sucks. Like it was just I felt bad the initial season, his rookie year where he got hurt. But then I was like, okay, let's see what he does this past year. Maybe he'll kind of figure it out. No, he didn't. He's just terrible. Like he's exactly the player he was in Florida. He can throw it a mile long. One problem, he doesn't know where it is. he'll throw it not a mile. He'll throw it 400 feet or whatever that way. But the problem is he doesn't know where it's going to end up. It could end up in the stands. It could end up in the other team. It could end up any number of places. But the one place it almost certainly will not end up is in his receiver's hands. And so he lost the job to Daniel Jones. So you know you're bad. You know you're bad when the team that let Daniel Jones go, and in the Giants, who are terrible, you know you're bad when they let him go. And he went and played backup, I believe, for the Minnesota Vikings. He was the backup for the Vikings for the rest of last year. And that guy, okay, that guy took your job, Anthony Richardson. That guy. You know things are bad when that is your end. So, you know, it is what it is. You hate to see it, but yeah, man. It's actually, we're going to probably, not next week, but the week after, we're going to be doing kind of the overall season preview, my opinion of where every team is going to end up. I don't know what the identity of the Indianapolis Colts is. I don't think anybody really could. Like, if you could describe the Colts in one word, what would it be? My word would be boring. My word would be uninteresting, dysfunctional. Maybe not dysfunctional. It's like they're not just like, I just don't know what it is they're doing. Like, it's not so much that it's like chaotic or constant drama or any of that. It's just, what is this team? Is it, you know, is it the defense? Not really. Is it the offense? Definitely not. There's just not really a part of this team that I look at that I'm like, yeah, that's the strength. Pittman? Anybody? Who's a running back? Jonathan Taylor? It's like, what was his last name again? Like, I don't know, man. Like, they're not good, basically. They're not good. So it sucks though, because I always kind of like the Colts. I've always had kind of a soft spot for the Colts. I love Peyton Manning growing up. And I like the Colts, but they're just kind of boring and sad. Too bad. It's too bad. All right. Well, that's the show, though. I don't have anything else to say. So, once again, I feel like I've gone in circles here. This Saturday, we'll be live for the Lions preseason finale. Hendon Hooker will play his last football game, probably. So that's going to be fun. We get to watch that live together as a family. And next week, we'll be back. Regular show on Tuesday. And then Friday night college football, actual, real life, meaningful football will begin. And that's crazy to think. We finally made it through the dog days of August. I guess technically we haven't made it through fully, but it feels like we've made it through. So, yeah, let's do it. So, all right. Okay, I don't understand why you made an account, buddy. You know what? We'll end with this. Michigan did not cheat. Show me the report that Michigan knew every team's plays or down by down, game per game basis. They didn't. This is not the smoking gun you people want it to be. Hey, man, I can read the NCAA report for you, or you can read it yourself. But something tells me that reading is kind of hard for you. So I'm going to let you read it yourself because you could use a struggle. Anyway, with that being said, we'll be back next Tuesday for the regular show and, of course, the live reaction on Saturday. Have a good night, everybody, and I will see you all, hopefully, this Saturday. Good night. See you later. Bye-bye. See ya.